The Road That Never Slept. August 18, 1944, near Argentan, Normandy, France. The road vibrates before the sound even arrives. Gefreiter Karl Weiss feels it through the soles of his worn leather boots as he crouches in the ditch beside the highway, his steel helmet pushed low, rifle resting uselessly across his knees. The night air is thick with dust and the sour smell of exhaust. Somewhere to the west, artillery rumbles like a distant thunderstorm that never quite breaks. Then the sound comes fully, an unbroken, mechanical roar. It is not the sharp snarl of tanks or the clatter of tracked vehicles. This is something else, deeper, endless. Tires on asphalt, engines revving, downshifting, accelerating again. A sound without pauses. Carl lifts his head slightly. The first truck appears around the bend, headlights hooded, barely glowing slits in the dark. It is followed immediately by another, and another, and another. Olive drab shapes roll past in a steady stream. GMC CKDW 2 1.2-ton trucks, their canvas backs bulging, white stars barely visible under layers of grime. Drivers sit hunched over the wheels, cigarettes glowing, faces streaked with sweat and dust. They do not slow down. Carl glances at his watch. 10 minutes pass, then 20. The trucks keep coming. Jesus Maria. Momo's Obergefreiter Ernst Keller beside him, a former farmhand from Bavaria who once believed engines were fragile things that broke down if you pushed them too hard. Do they ever stop? They have been retreating for days now, pulling back from the Falaise pocket, slipping east toward the Seine, then beyond it, toward the Rhine. The roads are chaos for the Germans. Burned-out wagons, dead horses bloated in the ditches, abandoned artillery with smashed breeches. Fuel is rationed to the drop. Orders change hourly. Maps are outdated the moment they are unfolded. But this road belongs entirely to the American. The column stretches beyond sight in both directions. Trucks loaded with ammunition crates, fuel drums chained down, rations, spare tires stacked like coins, mobile kitchens, wreckers towing other trucks that have simply run out of drivers, not fuel. A jeep flashes past, then a motorcycle courier weaving between lanes, then more trucks. Carl feels something cold settle in his stomach. Back home, his unit had relied on horses, solid animals, reliable. When the fuel ran out, the horses still pulled, but horses had to eat. Horses could be killed by shrapnel. Horses could collapse after days without rest. These trucks do not collapse. Earlier that evening, they had tried to ambush a similar column with a lone 75mm gun pulled into position by its last surviving horse. They fired 3 rounds. 2 trucks burned. The rest simply drove around the wreckage, engines revving, drivers ducking instinctively. Within minutes, American fighter bombers appeared, engines screaming out of the darkness, and the gun crew vanished under explosions and fire. The convoy never stopped. Carl remembers the words of their battalion commander that morning, spoken without ceremony. We are no longer fighting an army. We are fighting a factory. The trucks keep coming. Red circles painted on their bumpers catch the moonlight. Unit markings Carl doesn't recognize. He doesn't know the name for it yet. But this is the Red Ball Express, a logistical artery pumping supplies from the Normandy beaches deep into France at a rate no European army has ever achieved. Somewhere in the column, a truck backfires. No one flinches. Carl lowers his head again, suddenly ashamed of how small he feels. This is not bravery or cowardice. It is something else entirely. The quiet understanding that no amount of courage can stop a machine that never sleeps. Behind him, the sound of hooves approaches. A German supply wagon rattles past on a side road, pulled by 2 skeletal horses, their ribs visible in the starlight. The driver does not look at the American convoy. He stares straight ahead, jaw clenched, whip hanging uselessly at his side. 2 worlds moving in opposite directions, one powered by muscle and memory, the other by oil, rubber, and endless repetition. Carl opens his field notebook and writes a single line before snapping it shut. They have more trucks than we have bullets. He does not know it yet. But thousands of German soldiers across France are writing similar sentences tonight. In diaries, on scraps of paper, in letters they will never send. And with every mile that endless convoy rolls east, something inside the German army is quietly breaking. The army that moved on hooves. August 22, 1944, near Chalon-sur-Marne, France, at first light. The fog lifts just enough to reveal the aftermath of the night's movement. Major Friedrich Albrecht stands beside the remnants of his regimental column, boots sunk into churned mud at the edge of a country road. He is a career officer, 46 years old, a veteran of Poland, France, and Russia. He has seen armies advance and collapse, but he has never seen one outpace this completely. Ahead of him lies the evidence. 3 horse-drawn wagons overturned in the ditch. 1 horse dead, legs stiff, eyes open. Another alive but unable to stand, breathing in shallow, shuddering gasps. The drivers sit nearby, smoking in silence, faces hollow. They have not slept in 2 days. Albrecht adjusts his field glasses and looks down the road. Fresh tire tracks, dozens of them, run perfectly parallel, pressed deep into the soft earth. American tracks. They cross the road at speed, without hesitation, cutting through what used to be a German supply route like a blade. He lowers the glasses slowly. "Where is the fuel truck?" He asks his adjutant. The young lieutenant hesitates. "Sir, it never arrived." Of course it didn't. The regiment has been ordered to pull back another 30 kilometers by nightfall. On paper, it is possible. In reality, the fuel situation makes it absurd. The last remaining trucks have been cannibalized for parts. Half the artillery was abandoned 2 days ago when the horses collapsed under sustained air attack. The rest will likely be destroyed before evening. Albrecht walks toward one of the wagons and runs his hand along the splintered wood. This wagon was built in 1916. It had survived 1 world war already. But this war is different. This war moves too fast. Across France, the German army is discovering a truth it had spent years denying. Modern war is not won by tactics alone. It is won by logistics. And Germany is losing that war catastrophically. The Americans do not wait for railheads to be repaired. They do not pause when bridges are blown. They simply reroute, improvise, accelerate. Their trucks move day and night, in disciplined streams, regulated by military police who treat roads like arteries. Albrecht has heard rumors from other units, convoys that stretch for miles, drivers sleeping at the wheel, relieved by others who climb aboard while the engine is still running, mobile repair units that fix breakdowns on the roadside in minutes, fuel delivered faster than it can be consumed. It sounds exaggerated until you see it yourself. That afternoon, as Albrecht's column attempts to move east, they are forced to halt repeatedly, not by enemy fire, but by traffic. American traffic. Fighter bombers prowl overhead, forcing the Germans to freeze under trees or camouflage themselves in hedgerows, while the roads remain firmly in Allied hands. From a concealed position, Albrecht watches another convoy pass. Hundreds of trucks. No gaps. No confusion. Each vehicle maintains distance, speed, direction. Military police motorcycles dart back and forth, enforcing order with whistles and hand signals. At a crossroads, an American MP waves a loaded fuel truck through without even glancing at the German-held road. The arrogance of it is breathtaking. One of Albrecht's NCOs, Feldwebel-Braun, mutters, "They're not afraid of us." Albrecht doesn't respond. He knows Braun is wrong. They are not afraid because they do not need to be. In the East, against the Soviets, Germany had always believed that discipline and endurance could compensate for shortages. Men could march, horses could pull. The front could survive on improvisation. France exposes that lie completely. Here, the Americans fight with abundance as a weapon. Captured German reports, written in hurried pencil during the retreat, begin to reflect this realization. One diary entry recovered near Reims reads, "The enemy appears inexhaustible. We destroy vehicles, and more arrive immediately. It is like fighting the output of an entire continent." Albrecht orders the column forward again. Progress is slow. Every few kilometers, another wagon is abandoned, another gun spiked, another horse shot because it can no longer walk. At a crossroads near a ruined village, they encounter a sight that leaves the men silent. An American supply dump, temporary, hastily established, but overflowing. Crates stacked in neat rows, fuel drums arranged like cordwood, trucks pulling in, unloading, pulling out again in a rhythm so smooth it feels mechanical. No shouting, no panic. Just motion. Albrecht stares at it through binoculars, fully aware that he cannot attack it. He does not have the fuel. He does not have the ammunition. He does not have the men. And even if he did, he knows the truth now. Destroying this dump would not stop the flow. It would merely delay it. That night, as the regiment bivouacs in a forest clearing, Albrecht writes in his own journal by flashlight, "We once believed wars were decided by battles. That belief is obsolete. This war is decided by roads, trucks, and fuel. Against this, bravery is irrelevant." Somewhere to the west, engines continue to rumble through the darkness. The road never sleeps, and with every mile it carries American supplies forward. The German retreat becomes less a maneuver and more a collapse measured in exhausted horses and empty fuel cans. Red Ball Reality, August 25, 1944, east of Paris, France. The sun has barely cleared the horizon when Lieutenant Otto Brandner realizes something is deeply wrong with the map in his hands. The roads are correct. The villages are correct. The river line still makes sense, but the traffic does not. From his concealed observation point on a low ridge, Brandner watches the highway below fill with American trucks moving east in a continuous stream. He counts them out of habit at first. 1, 2, 3, then loses track somewhere past 100. The flow does not slow. It does not break. They are moving toward the Seine, toward Germany. Brandner served as a logistics officer before the war. He knows what supply curves look like. He knows how long it takes to move fuel from port to front. He knows that after a breakout, armies normally pause. They regroup. They consolidate. The Americans are doing none of that. A motorcycle with a red-painted fuel can strapped to its side flashes past. Behind it, a wrecker tows a disabled truck without stopping the column. Engineers stand on the roadside with spare tires already laid out, replacing a blown wheel in minutes before the truck merges back into the stream. Brandner's throat tightens. This is not improvisation. This is design. The Red Ball Express. The name has begun to circulate among German intelligence units, picked up from intercepted radio traffic, operates with a brutal simplicity. One-way loops, priority routes, no civilian traffic allowed, every vehicle marked, every driver briefed, every delay treated as a threat to the front. The Germans had assumed the Americans would choke on their own success after the Normandy breakout. The distances were too great. The railways were shattered, the ports insufficient. Instead, the Americans had replaced rails with rubber, and they had enough of it to cover a continent. Brandner watches as a convoy halts briefly at a junction. Military police direct traffic with crisp gestures. One MP slams a palm against a truck hood, shouting something lost in the engine noise. The driver nods and accelerates. The entire stop lasts less than 60 seconds. Brandner lowers his binoculars slowly. Back at regimental headquarters, the mood is sour and brittle. Officers argue quietly over ration allocations that no longer exist. Maps are annotated with penciled arrows that mean nothing without fuel to move along them. Brandner delivers his report to the regimental commander, Oberstleutnant Hesse, a man whose uniform still bears the dust of 3 fronts. They are not pausing, Brandner says. They are accelerating. Hesse reads the report twice, then sets it down. Our intelligence predicted at least a 2-week supply crisis after Paris, Hesse says flatly. Brandner hesitates. Sir, I believe their crisis never occurred. Silence settles over the room. A radio crackles in the corner. Another unit requesting fuel. Another request denied. Later that day, German infantry retreating through a village near Meaux encounter an American convoy at close range. The Germans scatter into fields as thunderbolts scream overhead. But the trucks never stop. Drivers keep their eyes forward, knuckles white on the wheel, trusting the system to protect them. One German soldier, Unteroffizier Wilhelm Reuter, writes in his diary that night, "We hid in the ditch as they passed. I saw a driver eating bread with one hand while steering with the other. He looked bored, as if the war was something happening somewhere else. That boredom is what breaks morale, not fear, not defeat in battle, but the realization that the enemy's war effort operates at a scale so vast that individual acts of resistance barely register." In the evening, as German units fall back yet again, Brandner stands by the roadside watching the trucks go by. The dust coats his uniform. His canteen is nearly empty. An American truck rumbles past, carrying crates labeled simply, "Fuel, Priority." Brandner laughs once, quietly, without humor. Germany had entered the war, believing it could outmaneuver its enemies with speed and daring. Blitzkrieg, Schwerpunkt, operational genius. Now, in the summer of 1944, that philosophy is being crushed beneath an avalanche of spare parts, gasoline, and standardized procedures. The Red Ball Express does not seek glory. It seeks throughput, and throughput, Brandner realizes, is what wins wars. That night, German radio intercepts pick up a phrase repeated over and over in American traffic coordination. Keep it moving. For the German army retreating toward the Rhine, that phrase becomes a nightmare because the Americans are keeping it moving and the Germans are running out of everything else. Diaries of Defeat. September 2, 1944. Near Verdun, France. Rain turns the road into a ribbon of mud, but it does nothing to slow the American trucks. Gefreiter Emil Harth crouches beneath a torn shelter, pencil shaking slightly as he writes in his diary. The paper is damp, the ink bleeding. Around him, his unit huddles in silence, boots soaked, greatcoats heavy with water. Somewhere beyond the trees, engines growl continuously, like a river that never runs dry. He writes anyway. They passed again last night. Hundreds of them, always the same sound. Tires, gears, no shouting, no confusion. Harth is 21 years old. He had joined the army in 1942, believing the war would be decided by courage and sacrifice. His father had fought in the Great War and spoken of battles where men faced each other across shell-torn fields, where endurance mattered more than machines. This war feels nothing like that. At dawn, Harth's platoon is ordered to move. Another withdrawal, another attempt to reform a defensive line that exists only on maps. They march along a secondary road, stepping around wrecked carts and the carcasses of horses left where they fell. One of the older men mutters, "At least the horses died doing something useful." No one replies. As they approach a crossroads, they hear the engines first. The platoon dives into cover just as an American convoy thunders past. Trucks splashing through puddles, spray coating their windshields. Drivers hunched forward with practiced focus. Harth watches from behind a tree. He notices something small, something that unsettles him more than the sheer number of vehicles. Every truck looks the same. Same model, same parts, same tires, same rhythm. If one breaks, another takes its place. Germany's army, by contrast, is a patchwork. Captured vehicles, outdated wagons, fuel of varying quality, parts that no longer fit. Uniformity, Harth realizes, is a weapon. Later that day, the platoon captures a wounded American driver who strayed too close to the lines. The man is exhausted, eyes red, hands shaking as he lights a cigarette. But when questioned, he laughs softly. "We got more trucks than we know what to do with," he says in broken German. "If I crash this one, they'll give me another." That sentence spreads through the platoon like poison. In the evening, officers collect diaries and letters from the dead to be forwarded home. Many are never sent. Some are quietly read by intelligence officers. The pattern is unmistakable. Again and again, German soldiers mention the same thing. The trucks never end. They have more fuel than men. We destroy them, and they keep coming. One diary recovered near Metz includes a line underlined twice. "We are fighting supply, not soldiers." By early September, Allied intelligence analysts begin to notice something else as well. German resistance is no longer focused on American spearheads. It is focused on delaying the supply columns, blowing bridges, mining roads, launching small ambushes against trucks. But the effort is futile. The Red Ball Express adapts instantly. Routes are shifted. Engineers build temporary bridges overnight. Traffic is rerouted through fields if necessary. For every destroyed truck, 3 more arrive. Harth's unit receives its ration that night. Half a loaf of stale bread shared between 3 men. No meat, no coffee, no cigarettes. Across the river, an American supply dump glows faintly under floodlights, guarded by MPs and anti-aircraft guns. Crates are stacked so high they form walls. Harth cannot stop staring. He writes one final entry before closing his diary. They are not winning because they are braver. They are winning because they are richer in things that move. When the order comes to retreat again, no one argues. They shoulder their packs. Lighter now because there is nothing left to carry. Behind them, the rain continues. So do the engines. When the math became clear, September 10th, in 1944, west of the Moselle River, France, Hauptmann Rudolf Sieger no longer bothers pretending the situation can be reversed. He stands inside a half-collapsed farmhouse, being used as a temporary command post. Maps spread across a rough wooden table, pencil hovering uselessly above it. Outside, rain taps steadily against broken tiles. The sound should be calming. Instead, it irritates him, because beneath it, faint but unmistakable, comes the sound of engines. Always engines. Sieger is not a romantic soldier. Before the war, he studied economics at Heidelberg. He understands systems, supply curves, production ratios. And for the first time since the campaign began, the numbers have become impossible to ignore. His regiment has been issued exactly 18 operational vehicles. The Americans, advancing opposite them, are receiving hundreds every day. This morning, Sieger intercepted a translated American logistics report captured during a brief skirmish. It listed daily deliveries to a single corps. Fuel, 5 million liters. Ammunition, 5 was tons. Rations, enough for 250. Neuronomen. The figures did not seem real at first. He read them twice, then a third time. They were not exaggerations. They were routine. Sieger steps outside and watches a line of American trucks crest a distant hill. Sunlight breaking through clouds and glinting off windshields. The convoy moves like a living organism, each vehicle part of a larger whole. He remembers Poland in 1939, how speed and coordination had shattered resistance. He remembers France in 1940, how German columns rolled seemingly without limit. Now the roles are reversed, and the Americans have learned the lessons better. A runner approaches, breathless. Herr Hauptmann, fuel request denied again. Battalion reserves are exhausted. Sieger nods slowly. He had expected that. Then we hold until nightfall, he says. And then we move on foot. The runner hesitates. Sir, how far? Sieger folds the map. As far as we can. That afternoon, the Americans launch a limited probing attack. It is not aggressive. It does not need to be. Artillery fires with methodical precision. Every shell lands where it should. No misfires. No shortages. German guns answer weakly, then fall silent as ammunition runs out. Sieger watches through binoculars as American infantry advance cautiously, confident in the knowledge that if they need more ammunition, more will arrive, on time, every time. This confidence is contagious. It spreads through an army. By evening, Sieger writes his report to higher command. He chooses his words carefully. Enemy operational tempo exceeds our logistical capacity by an order of magnitude. Current situation is not a tactical failure, but a systemic one. He doubts anyone will read it. That night, as the regiment withdraws yet again, Sieger walks beside his men. Boots sinking into wet ground. No vehicles, no wagons, only what they can carry. From a nearby highway, American trucks roar past, headlights masked, engines humming steadily east. One of Sieger's soldiers stops walking and simply stares. They're not chasing us, the man says quietly. They're passing us. Sieger does not correct him, because it is true. The Americans are no longer reacting to German movements. They are flowing around them. And in that moment, Sieger understands something with absolute clarity. Germany has not lost because of one failed battle or one bad decision. Germany has lost because it cannot compete with a nation that treats logistics as a weapon and abundance as doctrine. He scribbles one last note in his pocket notebook. War is mathematics, and we are outnumbered by numbers that do not bleed. The Rhine still lies ahead, but the outcome is no longer in doubt. Retreat toward the river, September 19th. 1944, Saarland approaches, Western Germany. The land begins to change as the German army nears its own borders. Villages grow denser, roads are better paved. Signposts carry familiar names. Towns the soldiers recognize from peacetime rail journeys and postcards. For the first time since the retreat began, the men are walking on German soil. It brings no comfort. Oberfeldwebel Heinrich Lenz marches at the rear of a thinning column, rifle slung loosely over his shoulder, boots blistered and cracked. He has served since 1938. He has survived Russia, but nothing has hollowed him out like France. Behind them, bridges are blown with the last remaining explosives. Ahead of them, American trucks roll forward as if bridges were inconveniences rather than obstacles. They have learned that the enemy does not pause. Lenz hears the sound before he sees it. Engines echoing off hills. A deep, constant rumble that no longer triggers alarm. It has become background noise to the collapse. At a crossroads near a bombed-out rail station, the column halts. Officers argue over which road is still open. A civilian family stands nearby with a handcart, watching silently as soldiers stream past without vehicles, without supplies, without urgency. Then the American convoy appears. It comes from the west, from the direction of everything the German army has lost. Dozens of trucks, then dozens more. They slow only slightly as they pass the crossroads, drivers scanning for mines, MPs waving them through with sharp gestures. Engineers ride on running boards, eyes fixed on the road ahead. A wrecker pulls a damaged truck without breaking formation. One of the civilians gasps. A young boy steps forward, staring openly. His mother yanks him back. Lentz watches the scene with a strange detachment. He is no longer angry. He is no longer afraid. He is impressed. The trucks are clean compared to German vehicles, maintained, standardized. Their tires are thick and intact. Their engines sound strong. A private beside Lentz whispers, "They'll reach Berlin in trucks." Lentz does not respond. He knows that is not literally true, but symbolically, it might as well be. That night, the unit bivouacs in a forest clearing just east of the border. Rations are gone. Ammunition is counted in single digits. Orders are vague. Across the clearing, Lentz overhears an officer reading from a captured American manual. It explains convoy discipline, maintenance cycles, rest rotations. Drivers sleep in shifts, the officer mutters. Vehicles don't. Lentz lies back against a tree and stares at the branches overhead. In Russia, they had believed winter would save them. In France, they believed distance would. Now, standing in Germany, Lentz understands the final illusion. Nothing saves you from an enemy who can move forever. Before dawn, American artillery begins firing again. Not a massive barrage, but a precise, sustained rhythm. Shells fall with clockwork regularity. Somewhere behind the guns, trucks are already lining up with more ammunition. Lentz closes his eyes. The Rhine is close now, but the road belongs to someone else. The river that could not save them. October 3rd, 1944, east bank of the Rhine, near Koblenz. The Rhine appears at dawn like a promise that has already been broken. Unteroffizier Karl Weiss stands on the muddy embankment, boots soaked through, watching engineers rush to complete the final pontoon crossing. The river is wide here, gray and heavy, moving with a slow, unstoppable force. For centuries, it has been Germany's shield, its natural wall against invaders from the west. Now it feels like a trap. Behind Weiss, German units arrive in fragments. Platoons without companies, companies without battalions. Men drift in from different divisions, different fronts, bound together only by exhaustion and the instinct to keep moving east. There are no vehicles left to speak of. A single horse-drawn wagon collapses near the road, its axle snapping under the weight of wounded men. The horse, ribs visible beneath its hide, simply lies down and refuses to move. No one shoots it. No one has the energy. Across the river, the east bank is jammed with traffic, refugees, Volkssturm units, staff cars carrying officers who still believe they can organize something resembling a defense. And overhead, the sound returns, not artillery, engines. American reconnaissance aircraft circle lazily above the crossings, unchallenged. They are not in a hurry. They don't need to be. Below them, the flow of American trucks begins to slow. Not because of shortages, but because the roads are clogged with success. Weiss watches as an American fighter bomber dips its wings and banks away, radioing coordinates. Within minutes, artillery strikes land with surgical precision on a nearby rail yard, cutting off yet another escape route. He remembers 1940. He remembers watching French columns flee, their roads choked, their supplies abandoned. Now he understands what they felt. A lieutenant approaches, shouting orders over the noise. Only wounded and command personnel cross first. Everyone else holds position. Weiss laughs bitterly. With what? He mutters. There is no position to hold. On the far bank, American engineers are already preparing their own crossings. Bulldozers push debris aside. Trucks arrive carrying prefabricated bridge sections. Everything has been planned, timed, rehearsed. The Rhine was supposed to be a line. Instead, it is just another obstacle to be solved by logistics. As darkness falls, Weiss writes in his diary by the light of a cigarette stub. We were taught that battles decide wars. This war is being decided by trucks. Around him, soldiers stare westward in silence. They can hear the convoys even now, muffled by distance, but constant. The sound never stops, and for the first time, many of them realize something more terrifying than defeat. Even if the fighting ends tomorrow, the Americans could keep coming for years. The Rhine does not stop them. It only marks how far they have already come. After the sound faded, October 18th, 1944, interior of Germany, east of the Rhine, the trucks are no longer visible. That is what unsettles Gefreiter Otto Brandt the most. For weeks, months, really, the sound of American engines had been constant, a mechanical horizon. Even during the brief hours of sleep, the rumble followed them, echoing through valleys and forests like distant thunder that never brought rain. Now, for the first time since crossing the Rhine, there is silence. Brandt sits on the steps of a schoolhouse requisitioned as a rest point, helmet between his knees. The building still smells faintly of chalk and ink. Children's drawings hang crookedly on the walls. Castles, farms, a sun rising over a field. Someone has scribbled 1943 in careful handwriting at the corner of a blackboard. Outside, the remnants of 3 different divisions wait for orders that will not come. There are no convoys behind them. There is nothing left to retreat with. A Feldwebel walks down the line, reading out ration allocations. Each man receives half a loaf of bread meant for 3 days. No meat, no coffee, no fuel for the remaining vehicles. Because there are no remaining vehicles, Brandt watches an officer tear pages from a map and use them to light a cigarette. The officer does not protest when Brandt stares. Across the courtyard, a group of soldiers argue quietly. One of them has found an abandoned American tire. Thick rubber, barely worn. He rolls it back and forth with his boot, as if testing whether it is real. "Look at this," the soldier mutters. "One tire probably weighs more than our entire supply column." No one laughs. Brandt remembers his father, a machinist in Essen, once explaining how factories worked, how production only mattered if distribution followed. At the time, Brandt had not understood. Now he does. An adjutant arrives from headquarters with fresh intelligence summaries. They are not tactical updates. They are assessments. The Americans, the report says, are building forward depots faster than German artillery can destroy them. Fuel consumption has increased. But so has delivery capacity. Losses in trucks are replaced within days. Brandt overhears one sentence that lodges itself in his mind. Enemy logistics appear functionally inexhaustible. That night, Brandt writes his first letter home in weeks. He does not mention battles. He does not mention heroism. He writes about roads. Every road leads west. He writes, and every one of them belongs to the Americans. He folds the letter and slips it into his tunic, unsure whether it will ever be sent. Far to the west, beyond hills and rivers and the shattered spine of France, the Red Ball Express still runs. Less frantic now, more refined. Routes are optimized. Traffic jams are studied and solved. Trucks keep moving. The system has matured. And systems, Brandt understands, do not get tired. As he lies down on the cold floor of the schoolhouse, Brandt realizes something that no propaganda poster ever warned him about. Germany did not lose the war when the Allies crossed the Rhine. Germany lost it when the sound of American trucks became ordinary. And then, unstoppable, the weight of inevitability. December 6th, 1944, somewhere east of Cologne, snow begins to fall in thin, hesitant flakes, settling on burned-out vehicles and frozen ruts in the road. Winter has returned to Europe, and with it, a cruel sense of déjà vu for the German army. But this is not Russia. Lieutenant Franz Keller pulls his greatcoat tighter as he studies the road ahead. His unit has been ordered to reposition, again. But there is no clear destination, no clear purpose. The map references positions that no longer exist, units that have already been shattered. What remains is motion without momentum. Keller listens. In the distance, beyond the white fields and leafless trees, the sound of engines hums faintly once more. Not rushing, not frantic. Steady. He remembers earlier winters, when cold meant salvation, when frozen ground stopped tanks and slowed supply lines. But the Americans have adapted. Their trucks wear winter chains. Their fuel is winterized. Their drivers rotate in heated tents and sleep in shifts. They have solved winter. A corporal approaches Keller with a captured American newspaper. Pages crumpled but readable. Headlines speak casually of advances, of tonnage delivered, of factories back home, breaking production records. One article mentions truck output, tens of thousands per month. Keller hands the paper back without comment. Nearby, a group of soldiers huddle around a small fire, melting snow in a helmet to drink. One of them stares westward and shakes his head. "They don't need to beat us," the man says. "They just need to keep coming." Keller understands. Battles still happen, violent, desperate, localized. But they feel disconnected from the outcome. The front no longer moves by courage or brilliance, but by throughput. On Christmas Eve, artillery thunders again. Rumors spread of an offensive in the Ardennes. One last gamble, one last attempt to break the system by striking at its arteries. For a brief moment, hope flickers. Then the reports come back. American convoys rerouted, bridges repaired within hours, fuel dumps relocated faster than bombs can destroy them, trucks driving day and night through snowstorms that would have halted entire armies only a few years earlier. The offensive stalls. The trucks do not. Keller writes in his journal beneath a flickering candle, "We are not fighting soldiers anymore. We are fighting an economy in uniform." By the end of the year, the roads east are choked not with German reinforcements, but with refugees. Civilians move alongside retreating units, carts and bicycles replacing wagons that once carried ammunition. And through it all, the Americans advance, not in a rush, not in a frenzy, but with relentless certainty. Their trucks pass through towns Keller once visited on leave. Their fuel powers tanks that no longer stop at natural barriers. Their supply columns stretch farther than any front line. The sound follows them again. Engines, always engines. Winter does not silence it. Neither does resistance. When the roads ran east, March 18, 1945, near the Ruhr pocket, Western Germany, the roads are no longer contested. They are owned. Oberstleutnant Wilhelm Krüger stands beside a shattered signpost pointing toward Düsseldorf, its arrows riddled with shrapnel. Around him, what remains of his regiment waits in silence. No orders, no fuel, no illusions. The air smells of wet concrete and diesel. American trucks move past in endless columns, rolling east without urgency, without fear. Some carry ammunition, others carry food. Mobile workshops trail behind. Mechanics already preparing to service vehicles that have not yet broken down. Krüger watches them pass with a professional eye. He notes the spacing, the discipline, the redundancy. If one truck falters, another immediately closes the gap. This is not an advance. It is a migration. German resistance in the Ruhr collapses in fragments. Units surrender, not because they are surrounded tactically, but because they are outpaced. Communications fail. Fuel disappears. Ammunition is hoarded and then abandoned because there is no way to move it. Krüger receives a final radio message from higher command, static-filled, fragmented, almost apologetic. "Hold where you are. Reinforcements impossible." Krüger switches the radio off. Nearby, a group of young soldiers, barely trained, some still in Hitler Youth uniforms, stare at the trucks with open disbelief. One of them counts aloud under his breath until he loses track. "Where do they all come from?" he asks no one in particular. Krüger answers quietly. From everywhere. He thinks of German factories bombed into rubble, of rail yards smashed again and again, of horses worked until they collapsed, of fuel rationed into irrelevance. Then he thinks of America. Factories untouched, highways stretching coast to coast, oil fields pumping without pause. This war was decided long before this road. By April, the Ruhr is sealed. Hundreds of thousands of German soldiers lay down their weapons. The surrender is orderly, almost calm. American trucks arrive carrying food for prisoners before the paperwork is even complete. Krüger watches soldiers eat from American field kitchens, hot meals, coffee, bread without mold. Some of his men cry quietly as they chew. On April 25th, American and Soviet forces meet on the Elbe. The sound of trucks still echoes. By May, it finally begins to fade, not because the system has stopped, but because there is nowhere left to go. Krüger writes his final diary entry on May 7th, 1945. "We believed wars were won by bravery and sacrifice. They are won by those who can move men, steel, and fuel without pause. We did not lose to soldiers alone. We lost to the road. The next morning, Germany surrenders. The engines shut down, and for the first time in nearly a year, silence settles over the roads of Europe.